calling in is about being able to talk respectfully and an opportunity to resolve a conflict or to understand another person's point of view, empathize. And I feel like calling out is a defensive mechanism that we use that puts people down and closes doors for opportunities to engage.
That's Cheryl Smith, and this is, well, That Went Sideways, a podcast that serves as a resource to help people have healthy, respectful communication. We present a diversity of ideas, tools, and techniques to help you transform conflict in relationships of all kinds. In this episode, we talk with Cheryl Smith and Michelle Noyes about Conflict Resolution Month in Colorado. Cheryl Smith is a longtime educator. Michelle Noyes is a mediator with Phoenix Strategies. And they are the co-leaders of Colorado's annual Conflict Resolution Month. I'm Sam Fuqua, co-host of the program with Alexis Miles. Hello, Alexis.
Hi, Sam.
Very pleased to have with us for this episode of Well, That Went Sideways, Michelle Noyes and Cheryl Smith. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Well, we're here primarily to talk about Conflict Resolution Month. Some of our listeners might not even know that Colorado has one. Give us a little backstory as to what that is, how it came about, and why you think it's necessary.
Conflict Resolution Month in Colorado had started as a result of the Conflict Resolution Day that was done nationally in 2004. We just decided that it would be important to extend the opportunity to honor and celebrate conflict resolution. And so Colorado decided to take it on as a whole month. Michelle and I both have been co-leaders for 2 years now with Conflict Resolution Month and have followed some great leaders into this role since 2004. We have been excited about having the opportunity to share the exposure and get lots of people involved in Conflict Resolution Month and just productively resolving conflict and restoring harm in good and healthy ways.
So I'm really curious, since the two of you have been sharing the leadership of this, what are some of the successes that you've seen in terms of people actually resolving conflicts in a way that was maybe even transformative for them and for the community?
So one of the things from Conflict Resolution Month that we participated in last year is we worked with PBS, and they supported an initiative to show a video or a film about conflict resolution and a facilitation. And we as a group and joining together with the MAC and some other practitioners around the state went to PBS's studio and actually facilitated to opposite sides of politics. And so it was a living room setting, and I can't remember the full name, but it was a really great facilitation. There was the first night, I think we had 120 people participate, and the second night were a little less, like 70, but it was an amazing. And they did this all over the state all last summer and so forth. So that I think is a really great thing that we have worked in. And really just the spirit of that people want to be involved in that is amazing. Another thing that we do as a group is we distribute a book every year to Senate legislative members, and it has to do with skills or conflict management of some sort. And so I think we've over almost 6,000 books we've distributed over the years, not just as state legislators, but all over the state.
Yes, since 2009, Conflict Resolution Month has selected a book, a title, and an author that they kind of showcased over the month of October. And this year, we are showcasing the book Calling In by Loretta J. Ross. And as Michelle mentioned, last year, combining with PBS, it was such a great opportunity for us to have the chance to come and celebrate in different conflict resolution strategies. And this year, with Loretta Ross, we're going to have her do a virtual engagement for us on Monday, October 20th, which will be free to anybody in Colorado because we're paying for her to do an evening event with us for 1 hour on civic engagement. And so Conflict Resolution Month is sponsoring that.
So people will get to see what that looks like so that they could
Yeah.
actually do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. She'll talk a little bit about the process of calling in and how that is different than calling out and building relationships and restoring that opportunity to reconcile relationships and repair harm.
Well, if you had to give a short definition of calling in and calling out, how would you define it?
I think calling in is about being able to talk respectfully and an opportunity to resolve a conflict or to understand another person's point of view, empathize. And I feel like calling out is a defensive mechanism that we use that puts people down and closes doors for opportunities to engage.
I agree with that. And I think that conflict has different layers or levels. And so calling in is being curious and approaching with a loving kindness versus I'm right and I need to win in this conversation. So trying to understand where you're coming from and really helping people connect.
So rather than saying, oh, Cheryl, you're stupid, that's a stupid idea, and people like you are stupid, I would say, oh, that's an interesting perspective. Tell me more. Did I
Right.
get it? Okay.
Right, right. That curiosity, the word that Michelle proposed, is what I really feel is a big part of calling in. You're curious about what that person is saying and how they're feeling about it, and you want to know more.
And I think too, people that are in conflict management know that how we're receiving it as a human being may not necessarily be what the person is intending. And so, really going a little bit deeper, to having the person explain what they have said in a way. And also, I think letting that person know what you said, it may have been off putting in some way, letting them know gosh, that's not landing with me quite right. Can you explain to me what you know about or what you think about that? So that you're also letting them know that that's not good for me, but also I want to know more.
Although the conflict resolution event with Loretta Ross will have already happened by the time this goes out into the podcast universe, regular listeners may recall that Loretta Ross was our first guest, episode 1 of Well, That Went Sideways. Are there other resources that you've put together that people can access for the month?
Yes, in fact, Jess Rao, who works with you all on Well, That Went Sideways, has been in charge of our Conflict Resolution Month website. And on that website, we have an activity calendar that we tried to fill every day in October with different events that are happening all over the state. So I just recently had the opportunity to have Senator Linda Newell at my church, and she did the last bill, a senator story, and did a wonderful presentation for our church members about what it's like to work in the Senate and be able to make resolutions come across bipartisan tables. So that's just one of the events, but every day we have an event that is associated with Conflict Resolution Month, and we're so excited that it's happening all over the state.
So you work with all age ranges?
Yes, we work with all age ranges. In fact, Michelle and I have talked a lot about that because my focus has always been students and trying to kind of build their ability to resolve conflict in productive ways. And she's talking about how she works with adults daily and making sure that they have productive ways to resolve conflict.
Yeah, it's very counterintuitive. Doesn't matter if you're a child or an adult, but it's very counterintuitive to constructively work through conflict sometimes on your own. Unless you have really great skills in place, it's really hard to do it on your own. And so that's why RJ practitioners, restorative justice practitioners, and mediators, and conflict managers are so important in our world.
Well, I'm impressed that the state of Colorado actually dedicates an entire month to conflict resolution. Would you say that as a state, we are ahead of the curve in using restorative justice practices and other conflict resolution practices to resolve conflicts between people?
Well, one of the things that happened this year, and it has happened in previous years, but we were so proud that Governor Polis signed a proclamation for us to celebrate October being Conflict Resolution Month. So that was a big step in the right direction for us to say, yes, as a state, we do feel like we're leading the charge in terms of what we want to happen across the states.
As I recall, Conflict Resolution Month, Colorado was a pioneer in having this program, and now it's spread to at least some other states, right?
Absolutely. And when you look it up on online, it looks like there's a couple of other states now that have joined the opportunity. But I think Colorado was one of the very first. Mary Zinn and Mike,
Maday.
yeah, Maday started it all off.
I'm guessing that people are wondering what some of the first steps are in conflict resolution. For example, if I'm not in a location where there's a conflict resolution center, such as the one here in Denver, what would be one of the first steps a person could take if they wanted to enter into that with someone?
With someone. I think that you honestly could do a Google search online and you could find a mediator. And it really doesn't have to be, I know there is this idea that, we use mediation for divorce. While it's very important for divorce, it is used in families. It is used in the workplace and corporate settings where there's employee conflict, or there are teams that are siloed and not cooperating or being productive. And it's important for people to know you can just do a Google search and find a practitioner. Also, the Mediation Association of Colorado is a nonprofit organization that has a listing of mediators in the state. That is another place you could find a mediator or conflict resolution in some way.
Right. And on our website, Conflict Resolution Month has a lot of resources that anybody could access and use right away. The Conflict Center of Denver also has a wonderful website, and they have all sorts of tools and classes and opportunities that people can partake in. I always tell students when we're working with conflict that there's three ways that you can choose to do this. We can do arbitration, we can do negotiation, or we can do mediation. And I show them how resolutions come up in all three of those areas, and that they have the power in mediation to be able to resolve their own conflict with somebody being an impartial person helping them go through the process.
And do most people choose mediation over the other two?
Oh, yes. Nobody wants arbitration. Nobody wants to have somebody tell them what to do. And a lot of times people will look at negotiation. Michelle and I were just having this conversation today about how negotiation can work sometimes, but not always, because sometimes somebody is a lot stronger than the other in that negotiation, and it's not really a compromise or a win-win. But when they have mediation, they can see the opportunity that there's a win-win.
It does seem that mediation creates more of a level playing field so that people get to be human and respectful together as they attempt to resolve a problem.
Absolutely. And, I think probably the adults do this the same way students do, but students take more ownership and accountability when they're having those conversations, and were the one that caused the harm. They take more accountability for it because they're trying to resolve it with another human.
I think sometimes children can maybe work through those processes a little bit more flexibly than adults can. I used to be an educator too, and then moved into this field as a second act. And I will tell you, just because adults are in big bodies doesn't necessarily mean that when they're in conflict, they behave like adults. They're still working out of the same parts of their brain when it comes to conflict and fight or flight or freeze. And it's the same concepts that happen when they're adults too. So, and just having that person there to help them is important.
Absolutely.
If there's one thing you wish more people knew about related to this topic, could be a specific resource or specific idea for managing conflict in the moment, what would you prioritize?
I have been working on collaboration, working in the workplace with collaboration, and I've been working through a book. And I really like one of the things that they say about team building, that it really starts with the individual. That, and I think this as a mediator, we have to be self-aware of what all of our vulnerabilities are so that we can help other people walk through and understand that this is a safe place and it's okay to have vulnerabilities as an adult and a human. And that's why we get into conflict, I think, most of the time, is that we're protecting ourselves. And so I think really it comes down to the individual and that self-awareness.
Absolutely, and I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think that my greatest hope would be that every person can see that they have a voice and that they have um, an important contribution to make in a conversation, and that they are really seen and heard through conflict. I just that would be my greatest hope.
Do you think that most people are aware that conflict is normal? That if you're alive, you will experience conflict?
No, I don't think they think that. When I do presentations, so I also teach conflict management and basic mediation. And that's one of the first things I lead in with, that conflict is normal. It is inevitable. If you are a human being working with other human beings, conflict happens. And really, it's how you engage in that conflict that is going to get you through it and or get stuck. And so we talk about, that this is, and we all have different styles that we're working with and different backgrounds and values and beliefs. And it's all coming to the table, not just the conflict.
We this year had an opportunity to work with somebody who's very good with marketing. And one of the things that this person asked us from the very beginning was, how do you feel about conflict? And it was so interesting for us to all think about that and to go deep inside of our own hearts and be able to recognize how we feel about conflict before we could really say, hey, we want you to celebrate Conflict Resolution Month with us. She really helped to center us and get us each individually to think about how we feel about conflict.
How do you feel about it?
I feel like it's a very natural part of life, and that I approach it in a way that it happens quite naturally. It just depends on how I respond to it that really matters.
I would say that I am conflict avoidant by nature, and that's kind of how I grew up. But through this career and just learning how to engage, I have learned that I'm not going to fall apart if I engage in conflict. and it can get uncomfortable. But one of the things we were talking about also is when it's done, and I see this with parties that are in conflict, is the relief that when we're done with mediation, that I don't have to be in this anymore. And even sometimes the feeling of reconciliation is so much more powerful than being stuck in the negative, um, again, that stuck place where people sometimes are. And yeah, it's really great to feel the reconciliation.
That's powerful that once you go through the mediation process, it sounds like you might actually grow some, like grow emotionally and psychologically and in some other ways.
Yes, I have seen people that have been very timid and, not willing to overcome those uncomfortable feelings, to now they're advocating for themselves and in a way that is going to be helpful for them when they're not in mediation. So it can be transformative in so many different ways for so many different people.
Anything you'd like to add?
Just because we're honoring and celebrating things in October, we do want this work to continue, and that everybody be able to find that support system so that they can continue to do this work. We do have our website, conflictresolution.month.org. We have a newsletter opportunity that people can receive the newsletter. And
you can join our group.
We can join our group. We have monthly meetings as synergizers, first Wednesday of every month at 4 o'clock. It's about an hour and a half, and we do our planning for what October will look like, but really how we want to continue to have this work expand itself.
Well, Cheryl Smith and Michelle Noyes, it's been really great talking with you and exciting to hear about all that's being done, not only in October, but year round to help folks with conflict and healthy conflict resolution in Colorado. And of course, folks can access the information and resources from anywhere there's the internet. So encourage folks to check it out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate you so much.
Cheryl Smith is an educator. Michelle Noyes is a mediator at Phoenix Strategies, and together they are the co-leaders of Conflict Resolution Month. As you heard in the interview, Conflict Resolution Month offers a featured book every year, and this year it's Calling In: How to Start Making Change with Those You'd Rather Cancel by Loretta Ross. You can find out more at conflictresolutionmonth.org. Thanks for listening to Well, That Went Sideways. We produce new episodes twice a month. You can find them wherever you get your podcasts and on our website, sidewayspod.org. Our site has information on our guests, interview transcripts, and links to more conflict resolution resources. And we encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. That's at sidewayspod.org. Our production team is Mary Zinn, Jess Rao, Norma Johnson, Alexis Miles, Alia Thobani, and me, Sam Fuqua. Our theme music is by Mike Stewart. We produce these programs in Colorado, on the traditional lands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations. To learn more about the importance of land acknowledgement, visit our website, sidewayspod.org. And this podcast is a partnership with the Conflict Center, a Denver-based nonprofit that provides practical skills and training for addressing everyday conflicts. Find out more at conflictcenter.org.